All right, can you see me?
Boom, there we go. What's up, man?
Awesome. Hey.
So I don't want to mess up saying your name, but how do you say your name?
It's pronounced Afriye.
Afriye. See, I would have said it wrong. I was going to call you Afriye.
Afriye.
But, all right, cool. Afriye. Got it. So looks like the connection's not that great right now, but it'll get better. So yeah, what's going on, man? I saw that you guys ran your first camp. When was it? Yesterday?
It was all last week, actually.
All last week. So what was that like? Or with what age group are you working with?
Yeah, so we did a beginner camp for this past week. Next week we have a more kind of intermediate, preparing for high school type of camp. So we're just kind of hitting those levels right now.
Gotcha. And this is through is it your company or is it?
Yeah, it's my organization. Started it up at the beginning of this year, and just super proud of how far we've come. So yeah.
Yeah, for real. What it's called, the CEO. What's it called again? Or
it's
you're the
CEO?
Phillips
Academy.
You're the CEO.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I got you. So what's that journey been like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I went to Oral Roberts University. I graduated in 2017, and while I was there, I worked as a student manager. And I tried to try out for the basketball team, but at the time, I think I was like 6'1", barely 145 pounds, soaking wet. No way I was making Division I basketball. But I just kept working my butt off, and then eventually, after I graduated, did a little bit more school, and I ended up making a professional roster down in Texas for the G League. And ever since then, I just really wanted to inspire kids that they could, achieve what they dreamed of. Want to give them an easier way to do that than I had. So that's really like the birthplace of Hoops Academy. And after I finished playing, I just kind of came back to Colorado, and here we are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you're in Colorado right now?
I am. Yeah.
Where are you at?
I'm in Aurora, located in Aurora.
Oh, you're in Aurora. Okay, I got you. Yeah, I'm in like downtown Denver. I live in Cap Hill.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Dang, if I would have known that, I would have said, let's meet up in person. I don't know why I didn't. But yeah, that's sweet. So you started this.
Yeah.
So you started this new kind of company to help out those kids and give them a little bit easier. So going back to you though, you're like work ethic. So you continued to work while you were at Oral Roberts, like playing basketball and stuff. Like, so you put yourself through training, or did you train with the basketball team?
So I basically trained myself, but I would always, at their practices, I would always take note of their plays and like how they did things. And I would just kind of lock it in my brain. I'm like, okay, so this is how you run this. This is the terminology for this, So I always kind of had it in the back of my mind.
And then you would go over to the rec center and shoot or whatever?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Every day.
Dang. So that's crazy. And then from there, so you didn't play in college, but you practiced like every single day. And then after college, you tried out for a professional team and you made it down in Texas.
I did. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. What's like one thing you learned about like work ethic and stuff like that, or like looking back on it, your college career, like what's one thing you learned from there that you took into your professional career?
Oh, man. I think the biggest one is just like being humble, like with where you're at the time. Because to be honest, there were a couple guys on the team that I knew I could beat, and all I had to do was say like, hey, let's play one-on-one. But that just wasn't my place at the time. And if I would have done that, that would have messed up the relationship with the coaches and some of the players, because they would have thought I was just trying to take their place. So biggest thing for me during that stretch of time was just remaining humble and just knowing what I could do. And, one day I would just get my chance to shine, and, it happened. So.
Mm-hmm. And then you went down to Texas and did it there. So what's one thing you learned down in Texas as a professional player?
Oh, man. I always tell people sports, when it becomes professional, it's it changes because money's involved. Everyone's playing for contracts. Everyone's paying for, to, keep their, same salary for the next season or whatever. It definitely changes when money gets involved. And biggest thing for me is, I did have like the work ethic and things like that going into it, but like the business savvy, people do say basketball is a business, and it's true. Like learning how to kind of navigate that, how to like carve out time for like you while also practicing, while also making sure that you're upholding the brand, so to speak, of the team and organization. All that definitely goes into it. And it can be a little stressful, especially at the beginning, for sure.
Just because you're trying to organize everything?
Exactly. Yeah.
So what did you use to like organize your time and whatnot?
So at first I actually stayed down with my sister because she lives down in Texas, and I had never lived in Texas before, and it was like my first time going down there, so I stayed with her. So a big part of it was just like having family and like friends like really help me out. I had a really good friend on the team at the time. I think he's playing for another G League team in Oklahoma or something, but it was just kind of staying connected with them and making sure that I communicated like what I needed, and like just being able to make sure that my schedule kind of like aligned with theirs, like, and things like that. So,
got you. What do you mean by like what you needed?
So I wasn't planning on moving down to Texas. So what I would do is I would fly down and then I would just come back to Colorado. So I would stay out there for like a week and a half. Then I would come back to Colorado for a little bit, go back down. So,
because our games like split up or something like that?
Yeah. So the G League season, it technically doesn't start until like January-ish, like maybe December, January. So that whole preseason phase, like, we're not getting paid tons of money or anything. So like, I would just stay in Colorado, just buy plane tickets to go out and like, do the camps and then like the practices and things like that preseason. So definitely during that time, my older sister, she was a huge help to me. So that was definitely one of the things I needed, was just, just like shelter and stuff like that.
Dang. So you flew back and forth all the time?
I did. Yeah.
That sounds like so insane to me, because I work with an Icelandic professional basketball team right now.
Okay.
But like those guys, obviously they fly in like they have a couple of players on the team from, oh my gosh, it's right next to, I'm blanking on it, but one of them is Croatian. And then there's three other ones from, what's the freaking country? It's a country that's literally right next to Croatia. I'm like seeing it on the map right now, and I'm blanking on the name. But anyway, so like, but those guys fly in and they stay there for like 9 months,
Wow.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how long the season is. It goes from the end of August till like April. So what is that? 8 months? It's a long time, dude. But for you guys, you're just flying down there all the time for practices and whatnot, and then flying back home so you can like continue to work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you also, what else do you do besides your Hoops Academy?
So I work at a school right now. I'm half teacher, half athletic director. And basically I teach like a creative writing class, but I also like took over the whole athletic program. So I'm doing that. And then I'm also coaching at Addenbrooke Classical Academy here in Lakewood. And I'm really excited. I took over the whole middle school program. It's a girls program that I took over and everything. So it's basically all basketball kind of intertwines,
Yeah, for sure. So, dude, you're doing a lot is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's like what I like, man. I like people that are like that. It makes me think that they have a deeper purpose, and they're more about the kids and helping them grow than anything else. So like in terms of like growth within your kids, you talked about like determination and grit and building mental toughness. Like what's one way that you build mental toughness in your athletes?
Oh man. I always started off by, I always tell them like the words "I can't" are not allowed, like in my training sessions, practices, games, whatever. So like just yesterday, I had a young lady. She's a client of mine that I train, and I was like, okay, we're going to do backboard touches. Just reach up the basketball, touch the backboard. She's maybe 5 feet, 5'1", and she's like, I just can't do this. I'm not tall enough. I was like, we don't believe in "I can't" here. If I tell you to dunk the ball, like I expect you to at least go out and try and do your very best. So one way to build mental toughness for me is I put them in situations that are damn near impossible, but they can at least do their very best to try and achieve it. And
Mm-hmm.
I just try and get them to think like, hey, like even though what you're being asked to do is maybe outside of your athletic ability or outside of your skill range, like I just want you to know that if you push yourself, we can get better at this and we can grow closer to this instead of just counting yourself out from the very beginning.
Interesting. So you're like putting them in situations that are like literally impossible. Like this girl's not gonna touch the backboard when she's 5 feet tall,
Yeah,
but you're like, I'm asking you to just try and touch the backboard.
yeah, yeah.
And eventually, maybe if you try hard enough in the long run, you'll get there at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like
And,
continuing to go after it.
yeah, for sure. And I think it translates into life just through experiences and us growing up, I look back to when my freshman year of college and everything like that. I never would have, imagined my life being where it is today. I'm sure it's going to look that same way in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I'll look back and go like, wow, I didn't think I could achieve this, or I didn't think this would work out that way. So it's just truly about just like, putting your head down and like keep grinding and things like that. And, what you sow, you will reap in the future.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily about touching the backboard for this girl, but it's about striving for excellence and just like
Yes.
doing the best she can every time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then when you get done with basketball, it's like that's exactly what it's going to be like outside of basketball.
Exactly.
You're going to have to be the best no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I like that a lot. What's like another way you do that? You build
I definitely love
determination
to
or grit.
yeah, I definitely love to foster like a family aspect on all my teams. And the way that we do that is like we do everything like together, like on the court. For example, my girls team, we do all of our stretching together. We're going to host like different events throughout the year to, just like kind of build up that camaraderie and things like that. And I think that's so important. And like I said, not just in basketball, outside of basketball, like I have a young lady who says that she wants to be an engineer one day. And like, that's perfect. That's great. And like with that, you'll be working with other engineers, other people who are just as skilled and bright as you are. So you have to know how to be able to work inside of a team, to meet deadlines as a team, things like that. So it's kind of just teaching them those little things that doesn't matter if you don't want to play basketball professionally. You can take these same concepts and apply it to business, engineering, being a doctor, whatever profession you want to go into. Just kind of like applying those team aspects to really, help sharpen their skills.
Hmm. Do you guys talk about a lot of stuff like outside of basketball, of like how they can like get control over their life outside of basketball? Because I feel like a lot of people escape to sports to get away from their real life. You know, like do you guys? The one thing I'm thinking about, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I heard this lady talk who had she was like super depressed in college,
Mm.
and she was contemplating suicide,
Oh, wow.
and then she didn't, and now she's a professional speaker, and she speaks about how there wasn't enough mental health awareness, or like
Yeah.
she didn't feel like she could go to the mental health counselor and talk
Yeah.
to them about what was going on. And so the one thing that she thought about was like she was so stressed out, and she
Mm.
was becoming depressed over it, basically because she had school and sport
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
social life. Trying to take care of those three things
Yeah.
is a hard task to do, especially at the college level.
Yeah.
And but the one thing she didn't give was any strategies for how to actually deal with it, besides to go talk to someone at the mental health clinic. you know? So that's why I'm like,
Yeah.
what like strategies, and like we don't have to get into like mental health issues or anything like that,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
like, what type of strategies do you help them with that are in or outside of basketball to help them like deal with the stress of life?
Yeah. So I think it's twofold for us, me and Hoops Academy. One with Hoops Academy specifically, we require each and every single athlete that we train to be involved in some type of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like service opportunities. And like we'll schedule that out as well. Like this coming year, we're going to schedule out opportunities. We're going to go to a homeless shelter and like we're going to help like pass out soup one day. Or we're just going to go downtown and like hand out, like gloves on a cold day, something at an RTD station or something like that. It's to like just really foster this, like life is bigger than basketball and life is bigger than you. So to really just kind of have that with the team aspect and to really go out there and like give back when so much is being poured into you, I definitely think that can help alleviate some of that, like some of those pressures that might be on their shoulders. And another thing is we try to host events as teams. Like for my previous team that I coached, we hosted like a movie night and things like that. And the movie was a little boring. Can't even lie. I have to do a better job at selecting the movies. But
What was it?
it was a really old basketball film about a girls' team that started off terrible and ended up being good. Cliche.
Yeah.
Acting was a little on the fence, but other than
Yeah.
that, it was a good message.
That's funny.
Yeah, but just trying to create those events where we can like just be ourselves outside of basketball, share. As a coach, your players do open up to you if you're open to it. So I try to be available to my players as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you're building that trust to where they can open up to you through just like being around them and setting up those events where they're together.
Yeah.
I always talk about how you build connection with athletes through time and shared adversity. So like just by getting that time around them, you're more likely to interact with them, and then you can build that relationship. Or if you go through some adversity, that's another way to build that connection. So it's the two examples I bring up are like your roommate from college. Like you might not have ever been through anything tough with your roommate in college, but you spend a lot of time together. So by the end of college, you like are better connected. And then the other one I think of for like shared adversity is like 9/11. Like when 9/11 happened, everyone, even if you hated somebody, like after that happened, you felt like way more connected to them because everybody in the US had a lot of shared adversity in an instant. So but those are like the two ways that I always talk about. So it sounds like you set that up pretty well with connecting them together with those movie nights and then going and like serving the community as well. One of the coaches I work with, he's the head coach at Neosho Community College for the women's team, and his first value is serve. So like he always talks about serve over self and giving back to the community. So I'm pretty sure each girl on his team gets like 60 hours of community service every year. Which
I like that.
Do you guys have values for your organization or for your teams?
Yeah, we do actually. So we have like a list of team standards, and what I do at the beginning of each season is I have them come up with the standards. So that way, if someone breaks it, I'm not saying, "Hey, these are the coach's standards. These are your standards that you set with your teammates." All right. So for example, we have like a punctuality standard, and like being in school, like I understand that like sometimes weather here in Colorado can be bipolar, and like sometimes sometimes like the parents, because they're still in middle school, they can't take themselves anywhere, so sometimes parents might be late. Excluding all those variables, like we have like a standard, like you'll be here at this time and we'll be ready to go by this time. And something I pulled from Coach Gino Ariema, our head coach at UConn, is he has his players run everywhere. So like when it's a water break, we're running to go get water, we're running back. We're going to get a basketball, we're running, then we're running back. Like we're running everywhere to constantly keep that we're on a schedule, like we're on a time clock. So that's one of our standards, just like be on time and like be respectful of your teammates' time, because you know they're here to grow just like you are, and we don't want to waste each other's time.
Those are good. So you guys have those standards. What's like one more standard you guys have?
Another big one we have is attitude, just the way that you come into practice and things like that. So if you are having like a rough day at school, at home, we always encourage our players to just like, hey, come tell the coach or tell your friend on the team, just like, hey, I'm having kind of a rough day. So that way we know that if you're kind of, maybe you're losing the ball a lot on offense or you're getting beat on defense, you know, on certain plays, like we can understand, okay, maybe a sibling of theirs is sick or something like that, or like their parent has been away for like a week or two at a time, and like they're kind of missing like their mom or dad. That makes sense, as opposed to I just don't want to work at all today. I just want to, you know, be lazy. Like that's different, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. That's huge though, having those standards. Have you ever read the book Above the Line by Urban Meyer?
No, I have not.
So he talks about how you need to have standards, and then you're either like the standard is your line, and then you're either living above the line or you're living below the line. And obviously, we want to have more times above the line than below the line. But like by setting that standard for them, it's like they want to live above the line and live above the standard. So because that's what's going to create a championship person, championship team, and things along those lines. But then, like creating the behaviors, it's one thing to just say like bring a good attitude or work hard, but then if you can describe a behavior that you can actually see, because you know, like you can't see inside the person, you can only see what they're doing. So it's like if you don't like, you know, coming in and having them check in with you if they're having a bad day, like now you know what's going on inside, so that when an action happens on the court, you're like, what the heck is going on with Sarah today? You know, but then like, oh, okay, yeah, she's already told me this, so like I understand that now a little better. But like most of the time they don't tell you, or like you can't see inside of people, you can only see their actions. And also at the end of the day, like that's what you're judged on, you know, at the end of a basketball game.
That's true.
If you've only scored 3 points, people are not going to look at you and be like, oh, you know, they're having a rough time outside of basketball. It's like, no, they only scored 3 points. So that's like, it all comes down to like the actions and the behaviors that they take. And one thing I was thinking about, I talk a lot with the teams I work with about like transformation routines. So when they get to the court, they're transforming from student to athlete, or they're transforming from daughter to athlete. And so like giving them a routine that symbolizes that shift in mentality and that shift from one area of their life to another area of their life. So it's kind of like I mean, they have to put on their basketball shoes, right? Like so when they come in, like they take off their outside shoe, and they leave that problem there on the bench or whatever, and then they take off their other shoe and they leave that C that they got on their math test today, you know, in their bag. They're changing, and they put on their uniform, and they're okay, now I'm it's like Clark Kent to Superman type of thing. So you're like helping them, you're helping your brain, like think about it like a funnel. You're helping your brain funnel into the practice and shift from one area of your life to another. So there's a really good video, or not a video. Do you know the NCSA, NCSA recruiting?
That sounds familiar. I think I've heard of it.
So they're like one of the biggest recruiting companies for high school athletes.
Okay.
And but I heard this guy talk about, he was Kobe Bryant's trainer growing up, like athletic trainer and stuff. So he talked about Kobe and how Kobe had this routine that he did when he would transfer, when his mentality would become the Black Mamba. Like when he's outside, so like right after layup lines or whatever, they'd go back into the locker room, and then they'd come out and they would sit down on the bench, and then Kobe would untie and then retie his shoes. And every time he tied his shoes, he would tell himself, tighten up. And then he would untie his other shoe, retie it, say, tighten up. And then he would walk out onto the court, and when he would cross that line, he would tell himself like Mamba mentality. So that was him transforming from, you know, the warm-up Kobe to game time Kobe.
Yeah.
So like having those routines is essential to
Yeah.
being able to compartmentalize your life. So that
Yeah.
might be
Yeah.
one thing that you bring up with them and help them to understand, going from uh, whoever they are to superwoman, something
Yeah.
along those
Yeah.
lines.
For sure. Yeah, I wrote that down. That's really good. I've never thought about it that way. That's good.
Uh, and like if you listen to a lot of like elite NFL players, they talk about the same thing. Like they're the nicest guy. I've met so many guys that are just like they're super nice in person, and they shake your hand, and their hands are
Yeah.
soft, and it's like weird because they're these huge dudes, but they're just such nice humans. And then you
Yeah.
see them out
Yeah.
on the, you see them out on the, you see them out on the field just whooping ass, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
what? That is not the guy that I met, a few
Yeah.
hours ago.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
hmm And it's all because like they transform into that football player when they put that helmet on, and
Yeah.
things along those lines. So I really do like those behaviors though that you have, because that's actually a really hard thing to get coaches and athletes to understand, like what the standard is. Like a standard might be service, but it's like, okay, what does that actually look like?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot. So what's another one of your like values that do you guys have a set of like core principles, or is it more like just standards that like and behaviors that they can accomplish?
Yeah. So the standards they came up with, like the attitude, be on time, and the like academic achievement. Um, so like for academic achievement, anyone that has like a C in anything, we're gonna help them like find a tutor or a mentor to kind of like help them boost their grade up. Because we want them to know that academics is ultimately way more important than any sport that you play.
hmm
Doesn't matter how good you are. And then like we do have a set of like core values as well. Like one of them is just like love one another. And like when I said that, they kind of like giggled and stuff, and I was like, no, but like it's serious. Like loving one another isn't just like some mushy type of Hollywood stuff. We're talking about like, hey, like I'll rebound for you after practice because like you want to stay and get some extra shots up, or um, like my friend needs a new pair of basketball shoes. I'll pitch in 10 bucks to like help you get them. Like that's what love in action really looks like. It's not just saying it, it's like going out and doing it. So that's one of our core values. And then our other one, uh,
Yeah,
goodness
that's
gracious.
like don't tell me you love me, show me you love me.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
hmm
And then our other one, it's just get better each and every single day. So let's just say you came in to the season, you're not starting or anything, you couldn't make left-handed layups. By the end of the season, maybe you're still not starting, but you can make left-handed layups now. Boom. Every single day you came in, you worked on that. That can help you get into the starting lineup for next season. And especially, we as coaches, if we can see that you can make layups, especially at this level, why not throw you into the starting lineup? We need some extra scoring, things like that. So just those small minor details getting better at.
GFBT, man, get fundamentally better today. That's one thing
There
I
you
say all
go.
the time. Yeah,
Yep.
that's good. So you have love each other and get better each and every single day.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I like how you follow that up with a definition of what it is, because I think defining your values is huge
Yeah.
when it comes to working in a team setting, because this is one thing I always bring up, like family, the definition of family.
Yeah.
Some people might jump on a grenade for their family, and some people might throw a grenade at their family. Like, you
True.
know,
True.
like
Yeah.
so like being able to define it and being able to be like, okay, are we doing this, are we not doing this, and here's how we know we are doing it, and then you have those behaviors and standards that they're living up to. Going back to that academic thing though, there's this high school down in Texas that I work with, Los Fresnos. They're like, people from all over the world come to this high school to study
Wow.
them and be like, why are you guys so good at what you do? Like, all
Yeah.
of their sports are normally pretty good, but academically, they're like one of the best academic public schools in the country. And what they do is like, if a kid is getting a C in a class, they basically force that kid to go to a tutor or go get help, or they, take away athletics from them or do something every single time. They have these crazy standards that, like, they might look crazy from the outside in, but like they get
Yeah.
results. All of their kids get A's and B's, and all of their kids, Southeast, it's way Southeast Texas.
Yeah.
So, not necessarily like the greatest area per se,
Yeah.
but they're sending kids to like Stanford, Harvard,
Wow.
Ivy League schools, University of Chicago, like all of
Yeah.
these great schools because of their academics, and they don't let kids slip. And like, talk about standards. There's this one story they told me that the swim team just made it to state. And so in the rules at the school, it says like you can't dye your hair, you can't have holes in your jeans, things like that. So if kids show up to school with holes in their jeans, they send them home to like get a new
Wow.
pair, literally right away. And if they're still there by the third period, if like they get away with it for the first 2 or 3 periods, like the teachers from the first and second periods that didn't tell that kid to go home or go to the office, they get reprimanded for it.
Wow.
So yeah, it's insane. But like, again, it's insane, but they get results. And so the swim team showed up, though. They were going to state. They all put a purple or a maroon stripe in their hair, and they show up to school, and literally like the first period wasn't even over by the time the dean walked in, or not the dean, the principal walked into that classroom and got all
Yeah.
of those kids out of there and said, go home now and have that changed by lunch today, or you guys aren't going to state. Like,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
that's holding kids to a higher standard right there. And
Yeah.
that's some
Yeah.
accountability. And like, I mean, they went home and they changed it, so,
Mm.
but like, that's what it takes. It takes that level of accountability and having those standards
Yeah.
that you can see with your own eyes. And it's not just like, oh, I feel like I worked hard today. Well, how do you know you worked
Mhm.
hard? Like, show me you worked hard. And then they pull out their shooting chart, and they're like, well, I got, 55 shots here, 55 shots over here. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, what's that make you think of?
I just think it reminds me of just like having tangible results and like tangible like evidence to see how far you've grown. Because for me, back when I was playing pro, like before work, I would go get shots up like 500, and then like after work, I would go get 500 more shots up. And people used to ask me all the time, like, why do you go to the gym so much? And I'm just like, well, I heard this interview by Kobe Bryant. He used to wake up at 3:30 in the morning every day while he was still in the league. Then he would be at the gym by 4:30. Beat his trainer there, already get up 500 shots. Then his trainer would come. He would get up another 500 shots, go home, eat breakfast, yada, yada, take his kids to school, whatever. Then he would go back to the gym, have his normal practice for the Lakers. Then if it was a game day, he would go back home, eat lunch, pre-dinner, game meal, whatever, be back at the gym, still 2 hours before the game, get more shots up. So by the time this man has gotten into the game, he's gotten 1,500 shots up in the course of 6 hours in total practice time. And some of the, players on the other team, their only warm up was 30 minutes with all the cameras and stuff in their face, NBA pregame. They maybe on a good day get 50 shots up if the people rebounding for them are on top of it. So 1,500 compared to 50, it just shows you the difference of why he was so great. And so I just put myself in that mindset of like, hey, I can go down to this tryout in Texas, pretending that I'm going to be the best one out there and stuff like that. Knowing myself, I never played college basketball when 98% of these guys already did. Thinking I'm, falsely going to make the roster just off of pure talent, or I can work my butt off and show them like, no, I will stay after, I will do this, I'll do this in order to get better. And it's what separates the greats from, those who are just average, normal.
The average, but average means being the best of the worst and being the worst of the best. So neither of those are that great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be the best of the best. That's what it's
Yeah.
about. So you would get 1,000 shots up a day, no matter what.
Oh, every day, no matter what, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it was just one spot I would do, literally just one spot on the post, so one dribble, pull up, 150, 200, and that would take up most of my shots. But that's, like I said, in our standards for our school, just find one thing to get better at. You know, even if it is just dribble pull-ups, maybe that's what your team needs from you, you know?
Yeah, maybe that's what you need to make it to the next level. Because there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of players out there who like they're great at one area of the game. They might be a great point guard, but then they get to the wing and they put shots up from the wing all the time and they're always missing. It's like, okay, like
Yep.
our play system calls for you to probably be taking most of your shots from this area. So
Yeah.
like we need you to get a little better at that. So when they go in, like having designed their practice around like the type of situations that they're going to find themselves in the most often.
Exactly.
Right? Like it'd be worthless for Shaq to be putting up 3-pointers because like that's not what he plays, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like you should be in the post working on your post game if you're that big.
Exactly. Yeah. Never missing layups or dunks.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, that's interesting. Getting in 1,000 shots a day. One thing I challenged one of the baseball teams I work with was to track all of their swings from like this time of the year through the end of the year and see where they get. And I'm like really interested to see how many swings they get off. And good thing is they have this thing that they can put on the bottom of their bat, so every swing they take just gets tracked by an app, so they don't even have to think about it, you know. But that'd be super interesting. Also, the coach at Neo shows he wants them to get 10,000 shots up by the time they leave Neo or within the year. So every practice, they literally have time dedicated during practice, just like 30 seconds for a water break and track your shots. So water break, track your shots, water break, track your shots. And he's found that there's like a high correlation between the girls that actually get 10,000 shots and the girls that score most of their points on the team.
Yeah. And you make a good point, because one thing I noticed in the NBA playoffs last year, I ain't even taking it to WNBA too, but NBA playoffs last year, the Milwaukee Bucks. One thing I was always saying to people is that Giannis he doesn't have to get a 3-point shot. He needs to get a mid-range, at least a mid-range, and be a good free throw shooter. Because what they were doing is they would just pack the paint, so whenever he would drive, he would have to kick it out. And at the time, he didn't have a lot of shooters with him. So if you can just get that one dribble, you're so tall already, you just pull up from the mid-range. It doesn't have to be a 3-pointer. You're still getting 2 points. You're just not dunking the ball. So if you can become 50, 60% from mid-range, teams are going to have to start playing you up a little closer. Then you just drive by again, and you're the most unstoppable player in the league. Like,
is he taking more mid-range shots this year?
He's actually been taking more threes. I don't know who his trainer is or anything like that. I would honestly just say like work on your post game a little bit, and then just work on those one dribble pull-ups, or a floater of some kind.
Dude, he needed that in the international games this year.
It's true.
Where you can just stand in the paint all day, so he can't just go to the paint because they were packing the paint, and then he had nowhere to go, and like he just got shut down.
Exactly.
So that makes a lot of sense. Well, I mean, I'm sure. How old is he? Isn't he still super young?
24, 25, something like that.
Yeah. So like, I'm sure over the next 3 years, we'll see him come up with a mid-range game for sure.
Yeah. But if you look, Celtics, Jason Tatum, he did exactly what I thought Giannis should have done. He worked with Kobe on his mid-range game all this past offseason, and now he is killing people just with 1-2 dribble moves, spin fake, just like Kobe, and it's unstoppable. Like, because now he can score from 3, he can score from all 3 levels, 3-point, mid-range, and he can finish it 3. I'm like, unstoppable, you know?
Yeah, that's huge. Actually, the one guy that I'm thinking of right now, he's on the Icelandic basketball team. He's an American though, and his mid-range is so nasty. Like he's so good from mid-range, but now it's like almost, okay, this next offseason probably just like work on his mid-range, continue to grow that, but also like, man, like if he can get a outside shot.
Yeah.
Because right now he's like a 2, not necessarily a point guard, but if he could work on his 3-point shot just a little bit more and get just a little bit better at that, man, he would definitely go to the next level, like instantly.
Yeah.
The Icelandic league would not be able to handle him. No doubt.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That's cool. How do we get on this topic? What were we talking about?
That's a good question. We were just talking about getting the shots up. And,
oh yeah, getting shots up. That's right. Yeah, man. And it's like same thing in basketball. Like your shot is so like you have to have a repeatable shot. If your shot's not repeatable, you're not going to score no matter what.
Yeah, it's true.
And like that only comes through repetition.
True.
Like
true.
You can't go in and like coaches want to talk about quality versus quantity a lot. Like quality and quantity are both important. And it's like during practice, you have to have a quality practice. But then outside of practice, athletes, especially I feel like a lot of athletes nowadays don't understand that you need to put in that alone time and just get your own work in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, what do you say to your athletes about getting in that alone time or that, that one-on-one time with just themselves?
Oh man. My team over the summer, it was an AAU team that I coached. I literally asked them after a game, because we lost to a team that we had beaten the day before, actually, in the tournament. So we lost to them the second day. And I was like, hey, how many of you guys like got shots up this week? And everyone raised their hand. And I was like, oh, okay, let me make it more specific. How many of you guys got shots up yesterday? And I think everyone raised their hand. And I was like, what about the day before? And it started to go down and down and down until I got to the beginning of the week. It was only like 2 people had their hands up. And I was like, ladies, if you just looked just from a purely logistical standpoint, only 2 of you got up enough shots, and they were the ones who were scoring all the points. Everyone else, you got shots up yesterday, which is probably why you look so good in the game. But from one day does not account for, the 6 days that you missed from getting shots up. And I told them the girl that really kicked our butts in the game, she probably after that loss went to the gym and got up shots like, oh, I'm not losing to them tomorrow. Like, I know the shots that I missed, I'm going to make these. Because that's what I would do as a player. Win or lose. Like, if I won, I would go get maybe 250 shots up and call it a day. But if I lost, I'm going into the gym getting another 500 shots up. Oh, I know I could have made this. I know I could have done this, So you're right. The personal aspect is just as important as the team aspect.
So how can you make that more like, how can you hold them more accountable to getting those shots every day, you think? What's one way?
Man, I tried to dedicate time during practice, like maybe 10 minutes. All right, we're just going to get shots up for the next 10 minutes from these spots. So that way they can kind of see what they could work on. And then me and my assistant coach, we just tell them, go grab your dad or your sister, your older brother, something. And like, just go to the park with them. Like, it's 2019. You can walk there and get your older sister or brother to call Uber. Like, you have unlimited possibilities as opposed to maybe 50, 60 years ago when the lights went out. Well, you couldn't get up any more shots because you didn't see the rim. But now
that's true.
It's just unlimited now. They even have apps where you can like set up pickup games and stuff now. Like, you can there's literally unlimited access for you to go get shots up.
So like outside of practice when they're on their own, like you're telling them to go do these things, but like what's one way like you could make it like a little, like you could motivate them a little bit more to go do it? What do you think?
So one of the things I'm going to start doing, me and my assistant coach, is I'll stay an extra 30 minutes after practice if you want to. And they have like outdoor courts there. I'll stay 30 minutes and I'll rebound for you. It doesn't hurt my pride at all. Like, I started off as a student manager. I know what it's like to rebound for a bunch of people.
You're like I'm a pro at this shit.
Honestly, it's true. Like, when I tell you the amount of times I've been hit by basketball, people airballing, it's ridiculous.
That's funny.
But, it doesn't hurt my pride to rebound for you. If you want me to come on a day off that we have to come rebound for you, all you have to do is have your parents email me or call me or whatever. Like, I want to help them get better, you know? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Like letting them know that like you're available as well.
yeah,
I did that for my baseball team all the time. Like when I
yeah,
was coaching a college team, a college summer team, I would tell them,
yeah,
I'm like, hey, I'm literally coming from my one job straight here. So I'm here an hour and a half before any of you guys are here. I'm like, if you
yeah,
want to show up, like I'll be happy to throw you BP or toss to you or hit you ground
yeah,
balls, whatever you want, man. And like slowly, the more I said that, the more kids showed up. And then like when a kid did show up, I would talk to them. I'd be like, hey, like Tommy showed up today to get in that extra work. Like, where were you guys? You know?
yeah, yeah. That's
Um,
good.
and then another thing is like giving them a like a reason to go do it. So if they go practice on their own, and do you guys have like a group chat or something like that?
Yeah, we do. Hmm.
So like if they go practice on their own, like telling them, hey, no picture, no proof. And like so like if they go practice, they have to take a picture of them practicing. And then
Yeah,
when they do that, they get like some sort of gain. Maybe one of the teams I work with, what he does is they have this 1% group. So basically girls come in and they get 1% better at a morning practice. And if you go to
yeah,
that practice, you get a marble, and you put that marble in a jar, and as soon as that jar fills up,
yeah.
you can get a like a steak dinner with the coaches.
Really? I like that. I like that a lot. I might steal that actually. I'm gonna write that down.
So like now you're like motivating them outside of that as well. I did that
Yeah,
when I was that going back to that summer college team as well. Like we
yeah,
would put like candy bars on it. We would put candy bars on the game, or like when we would scrimmage, or
yeah, yeah,
same thing with like showing up early. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
like
really like that.
yeah, I was like trying to think of like other ways that we could like motivate your girls to like actually want to get in that. Obviously like intrinsic motivation is the best, but sometimes I was reading this book about passion and how like people want to talk about, oh, you need to be passionate, you need to be passionate, but like passion is a byproduct of you putting in the work towards something. Like
Mhm.
you become more passionate by becoming better at something. So
Yeah,
it's like you don't just have a passion for basketball just like instantly, like
yeah,
you have a passion for basketball because you've been around it for however long, or maybe you've been working at it for this long and now you're passionate. Whereas when you first started, you might have sucked,
yeah,
but
yeah,
and like you're like, man, basketball's not that fun. And then your parents were like, oh, just you got to stay in it for this long,
mhm.
and by the end of the season you were like, man, this is amazing. Makes me think of when I was a physics student in high school, and I
Yeah,
sucked at physics when I first started, but every time we would have a test or a lab report due, I would invite the smartest people in my classes
there you
over
go.
over to my house to work on it and study. And by the end of physics, I think I had like a B plus or an A minus, which was way better than the C or D that I started with.
Yeah,
And I went to college and I actually became a physics major. So like
wow.
for a couple of years before I switched, but like
Yeah,
that like passion for physics grew over time, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So that's another idea that might work for them. What other ages do you coach?
So I coached my middle school girls team. I also coach a high school team as well. It's a much smaller high school, so we kind of play like kind of like some lower competition. But this next coming AAU season, I'll hopefully be coaching a high school either boys team or girls team, which is where I eventually want to be for next couple years. I'm going to stay in a high school program. And always for me, I've never wanted to go to like a top program and just take over. I've wanted to start at like a program that's kind of like lower level where people don't expect much of, and like work them up and like beat up on all the big people. Because I'm not gonna lie, the basketball competition here in Colorado is not too great. There are maybe one or two schools that I can think of that are decent enough to send kids out D1, D2, whatever, every single year. But other than that, you know, basketball competition here isn't too great. So what I want to do is like start from a lower level school and like really build it up to, oh, this is the school to beat in Colorado, or this is the school to beat this season, instead of just taking over a program with a bunch of 5-stars like that. To me, like, as a coach, that doesn't really say anything about your coaching. You just have a lot of talent, and it's just like, okay, well, just go out there and do it. I'll just put in a player or two. Like, anybody can do that, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. So you want to like coach at the high school level long term?
I do. Maybe 2-3 years. I honestly have really high aspirations. I want to try and be the head coach of a college program before I'm 30. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I just want to. I just know the work and preparation I've put into everything, and I've still got a lot to go. Like, I still lean on mentors and things like that all the time. But I definitely think that is attainable for me before I'm 30, become the head coach of a college program, even if it's just like a D2, D3 college.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's just it's the same thing, going back to getting your shots up, man. That's what it's like in at becoming a coach, just getting in more and more coaching experience. That Icelandic basketball coach that I work with, he's only 29, but he won top league coach of the year last year, and like, he's 29, but he's been coaching at the international level and as like a coach for one of the teams in the top league there for the last 7 years. So it's like, I asked him the other day, I said, what do you think is the reason you're like so much better at coaching, or so much better at making those decisions on the fly,
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I think it has to do with like the years of scouting experience that I have. So when I would like watch teams play, like I know their plays quicker and stuff like that. But then he also meditates. He does like this focus thing on his computer where it's like a 15-minute intensive, almost game-like thing that he has to click this or click that. And like, he's like, I think that's helped. And then he also like takes a 10 to 20 minute nap every day in the afternoon.
I would like that.
And he gets 8+ hours of sleep every night. So he's like, I think it's a combination of all of that, man. But but he's been doing that for so long, like he has worked out every single day this year, and it's November. So like, he's elite, man, on and off the court.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what it takes, though, to like get somewhere fast, is like, look at all the elite people. Like you were talking about Kobe. Like, you're like, man, Kobe gets up 1,500 shots before he even plays. Like, I'm going to do 1,000 or I'm going to do almost as much as him, because success leaves clues. So it's just like leaning on those mentors and continuing to grow.
Yeah. What you said actually reminded me of something, because come back to me. When you were talking about like the preparation type of stuff, back in college when I didn't make the team and stuff, but I was a student manager, I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus or anything, but like a lot of the guys on the team, they would always go out like every night or like on the weekends, so like all these parties and stuff, and they would they would always get like a little bit of money and stuff like that to like go do that stuff. And like, I remember as a student manager, I would stay late after games and things like that, and find myself like doing homework like in between like short breaks of practice and games or whatever. And anyway, all that to say, like, while they were out doing all that, I was like in the gym, like working out or getting shots up. And that's part of the reason why I grew so confident. Like, I knew where you were last night. Like, you weren't in the gym getting shots up. Like, I got up 500 shots. You were out there partying until 2 a.m. I was out there shooting until 2 a.m. Like, there's a reason why, like, some people like advance further, like you're saying, than others, because some people like to go out, blow all their money, like on weekends and things like that. But like that Icelandic coach, like 8 hours plus of sleep, doing the meditation stuff, like that's why, he's, on a different level from all these other coaches in that league. So.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of the guy Dan Gable? He's a wrestler. Old wrestler from Iowa State.
No, I have not.
But that's who you just made me think of, because when he made it to the Olympics, he would wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. I forget, middle of the night. He would wake up and go work out and like run stadiums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And people would ask him, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? He's like, I know my competitors over in Russia are training right now. He's like, they're getting a leg up on me. He's like, I'm not going to let it happen though. And he went and just destroyed everybody. Like,
Yeah.
because he had like not only the physical aspects and the talent and that or the skills to do it that he had built up over time, but like he had that mental edge of being like, dude, I know I've worked harder than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is what you were basically just saying there as well. Like, I know that I was getting in work while you weren't. And that gives you a psychological edge. Even if you're tired, like, then you're going to fall back on that psychological edge of like that mental toughness that you've built, so that like, okay, even though I'm tired right now, I can still go harder.
Exactly. And I think that works for any profession, honestly. Like, for example, like if you're like an intern, like at a news station, and you have a dream of being a news anchor, like taking those little moments of taking notes of like, oh, this is how she presents this, or like, this is how he does this, like, and then applying it. So when that opportunity comes, like, I've been studying you for the past year of this internship. I know how to do everything already. I'll still listen to you like on like direction wise, but like I've got it down. Or like it can apply to any profession. You know, the news anchor thing I did, business, you know, like starting off at like a lower tier and just like observing like the way CEOs do it. Like, you know, it works in any profession, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're just learning from the best. And like I said earlier, success leaves clues. You just gotta just gotta pay attention to what the successful people are doing and surround yourself by them. And it doesn't necessarily mean like you have to be with them person to person, but maybe it means like literally reading all of their books, listening to all of their podcasts, watching all of their YouTube videos. Now it's basically like you've hung out with them, you know, like I listen to Joe Rogan all the time. I'm like, I feel like I know who Joe Rogan is. You know, I feel like I could go sit down at dinner with him and talk about whatever. So it's the same way with like the people that you look up to and your mentors. Like, you don't necessarily have to be around them physically, but you can surround yourself. Like, that's the beauty of social media nowadays. Like, you can literally follow all the greatest point guard Instagram accounts and then become a better point guard because you're constantly watching Kyrie Irving do his thing.
Exactly.
You know, like stuff like that. Cool, man. Well, I want to wrap this up just because I like to keep it to 60 minutes. So people like 60-minute podcast is where I like to end it at, you know, but like, what's your number one takeaway from our little chat today?
Oh man. Well, I think number one takeaway is I just love like being able to connect with other people like you have like the same passion and drive to like get better and to grow. Because it motivates me. Because I have like a small little podcast too, and like to see that you're reaching like a whole bunch of like really influential coaches or like players and things like that. I listened to one of your podcasts. It was this lady. She was I can't remember the sport, but she was a
golf coach.
Yes,
Amanda.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I loved it because like what you guys were, you know, talking about, just like everything from like players, like, you know, like how she like coached her team and everything. I was just like, I've never played golf, but like I can take some of these bits and apply it to basketball. Like, it's crazy, you know?
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of my takeaways. Just like, you know, just how you're connecting with so many like influential people like across the country. Like, I think it's making a huge difference, and like it just motivates me to keep going with what I'm doing.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Of course.
What's one more thing?
Definitely just staying to the grind. And like the things I wrote down, like those transformative routines, I never knew how to describe it, but I'm actually going to tell my teens about that. And then the marble with the steak dinner. I won't give them a steak dinner, but like I'll do something like similar, you know?
Yeah.
Do something similar to kind of like motivate them to get into the gym, work extra hard, things like that.
Cool, man. Yeah, no picture, no proof. I think that'll help a lot. No doubt about it. All right, man. Well, where can people reach you at?
Yeah, so they can follow me on Instagram. It's at AFRIYE P Afriye P. They can also follow my organization's Insta. the Hoops Academy, the _hoops_ academy. And then my podcast on Himalaya app. Shameless plug right there. Shout out to Himalaya app.
That's awesome.
They can find me at Driving with Coach O. It's kind of a nickname one of my players gave me. Driving with Coach O, so they can find me on there too.
Driving with Coach O, is that all about like you just driving around giving your thoughts or something?
Yep, just on basketball. I'll be having a couple of special guests. It's basically a carpool karaoke, the podcast edition.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna check that out. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Well, I'll talk to you soon. And yeah, thanks for being on.
Definitely. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. See ya.
Have a good one.